When you're managing a brand and you're making the marketing plan for one of the products inside of the brand, you always have to think of the product lifecycle for that specific product. It's important to know where the product is in its product lifecycle so that you can understand how you should set up its advertising and what it's communicating to its customers. So there's four main areas of the product lifecycle. The first one's introduction. The second one is growth. The third one is maturity. And the fourth one is decline. Each one is unique in its own way and how you communicate to customers. So in the introduction phase, your number one goal is always product awareness. Nobody has any idea your product exists. There's examples of products that are struggling, and the number one reason they're often struggling is because nobody knows they exist. I've even heard of stories where brands will hire consultants to help them grow because they can't understand why their product isn't successful, and they will run surveys and they will run a list of brands in the survey, and it will be their brand, three real brands, and then one made up brand. And more times than not, the made up brand actually ranks higher than the real brand because people just don't know what exists. So in the introduction phase, your goal is all about brand awareness. And so you're thinking about information. You need to educate your consumers. Once you get into the growth, so as your introduction and growth are very similar, you're doing two main things. One is information/education. And the other thing you're doing is called social proof. Social proof is like having reviews on Amazon. People look at the reviews because they want to know what other people are thinking about it. Today, 2020, this is why influencers are so popular on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, is because the influencers on these social networks and social media, what they're doing is they're providing social proof. So brands will give their products to the influencers. The influencers will talk about them, and then the consumers who are watching the influencers see it, and they trust the influencers' advice and opinions, so they will purchase the product. Another example of getting social proof is hiring someone famous. This is why brands get doctors or dentists or even professional athletes to endorse their product, because we all trust those people. We believe that if someone famous or someone we trust, like a doctor or a dentist, is endorsing this specific product, we believe that it's real. Maturity, once you're into maturity, everyone knows you exist. If you think about mature brands, think about Coke, think about Pepsi, think about McDonald's, think about Disney. These brands have been around for 100 years. Ford, another example. When you're at that level, your brands can be much more vague, and especially when you're getting into things like Coke and Pepsi and different kinds of beers like Budweiser. They often tell you nothing about the actual product itself because everyone knows it exists. Their commercials are more reminding us that they're there. In the maturity section, your goal is to remind people. So you just keep playing commercials or advertisements or whatever it is that you're doing to remind people that you're there so they don't forget. They already know what it is, so you don't need to explain to them. You don't need to educate them, and you don't need social proof because most people have already tried it or they know someone personal who has tried it. Once you're into decline, you need to decide what you're going to do. Do you try to bring the product back and save it, or do you just sort of let it go off? Once you've thought about your product life cycle, you need to think about which type of product you are selling. If it's a high learning product, it's going to take longer to get the general population to like your product. So you have to think about an iPhone. When the iPhone, or smartphone for that matter, first came out, it took a long time for people to want to buy it. People were very hesitant at first because they didn't know what it was and they were scared of it. Another example today is electric cars. People are very hesitant about them and they're not really sure what to make of them. When you're thinking about cars like Tesla, even though they're expensive, still there's a large part of the population that is somewhat hesitant because they're different. It's more of a high learning product. Low learning products are the exact opposite. A low learning product is very easy to market in the sense that you don't need to educate people that much about what it is. You're focusing more on getting them involved with the product. Low learning would be things like foods, soft drinks. These are products that people already know what it is, they know what it does, they just need to purchase it. Fashion products are very unique in themselves. Fashion products are products that come into style, go out of style, and then they come back into style. Everyone can list a handful of products that were very trendy when they were a child and now are back again. Fad products are very unique. They come as quick as they go. Favorite most recent fad product is the fidget spinner. It exploded onto the market, and with the same amount of time that exploded, it was gone, and no one cared about them anymore. The one thing to think about fad products, though, is sometimes fads turn into trends. The difference between a fad and a trend, you can become a very successful business. But if you guess wrong and you think it's going to be a trend and it actually turns out to be a fad, you can lose lots of money. And so it's a very hard thing that marketers need to research and look very carefully and try to distinguish the two.